What's up, agents? Zero here. Welcome back to another Minecraft command video. Today I'm going to be teaching you guys how to use the /TickingArea command. Now before I go any further, I want to go ahead and mention that this command, as far as me recording this video, this command is exclusive to Bedrock Edition players. So Android, iOS, Windows 10, Xbox One, all of you guys have access to this command. Java Edition players, Console Edition players, this command is not currently available for you guys. There's a chance Mojang may change this in the future, but as far as me recording this video, you guys do not have access to this command. I do apologize, but there's really nothing I can do. So anyway, let's go ahead and get started. TickingArea. So what exactly does TickingArea do? Well, basically what it does is it makes it so that certain areas of a map or a world or whatever you want to call it are always active. And it's actually rather useful for maps. In fact, I've used this in maps for a number of different occasions and it works extremely well. And if I go ahead and go into the command line and I just type in /TickingArea, as you can tell, it actually has a few different parameters of which you can use. And I'm going to be doing my absolute best to explain every single one of them. So first off, we need to know how to create ticking areas. And there actually are two ways that you can set up a ticking area. First, you can type in TickingArea add, and this is what the command looks like. So you type in TickingArea space add. Then what you do is you type in two sets of coordinates. In my case, the first coordinate is 944, 416, and the second coordinate is 959, 431. And the last part is entirely optional, but it is giving you the option to name your ticking area. In my case, I labeled it as chunk A. Now, ticking areas are done in chunks, and I know most of you probably know what a chunk is because you use them on a regular basis. But I am going to go ahead and explain chunks anyway. So a chunk is how Minecraft generates worlds, and it's done in like a grid system, and each individual grid is 16 by 16 blocks across the X and Z axis and goes on the Y axis from bedrock down at 0 all the way up to 256. So that's what an entire chunk is, and ticking areas are based on entire chunks. So let's go ahead and run this command block, and so now we have a ticking area in use. And basically what the ticking area is doing is that anything that is currently inside of this light blue border, which by the way, this entire light blue border is the outline of one exact chunk. Nowhere outside, not stretching inside one exact border of a chunk. So anything that's going on inside this chunk is always going to be active because it is an active ticking area. And ticking areas do not have to be one single chunk. You can in fact have ticking areas include multiple chunks all at once. There are some limitations, and I'll be going over that at the end of the video, but for right now, know that only one chunk is not your limit. You can have multiple chunks in a single ticking area. And one other thing I should probably mention, it doesn't actually matter where inside the chunks you are. So say for example, I were to type in the exact same command, but say for example, I typed in this coordinate right here, 949, 420, and I also included this coordinate right here, 954, 424. It would generate the exact same ticking area. It doesn't matter what the coordinates are, it goes for full chunks. It is not the same as /fill, where it fills from coordinate A to coordinate B. It expands the two coordinates out to the furthest points of the chunks that you are using. So that is something to keep in mind. You might try to make a ticking area which contains a small area, but chances are it's going to expand out a little bit further depending on where your coordinates are. So that is something to keep in mind. Next up, we have the add circle function. Now this is similar to the add command. However, instead of doing it in a square, it does it in a pixelated circle. And I'm going to do my best to explain exactly how this works. So this is what the command looks like. So you do ticking area, add circle, and then you add your coordinate. In my case, this is 948, 443, and then you type in a number between 1 and 4, and then again you have the option to name your ticking area, in which case this is labeled as circle A. So let me go ahead and explain how this works. So that coordinate that I have in there, 948, 443, that is actually the exact coordinate of which this block is currently sitting on. So if I stand right here, it's 948, 5, and that's only because I'm standing on top of it rather than inside, and 43, it is the exact same coordinate. So what this is doing is that it's playing the center point of this circular ticking area inside of that block. Now you might be wondering what the 2 is and why it's 1 through 4. Well, it's actually a radius from this block. So anything in this direction a certain radius, anything in this direction in a certain radius, you get the idea. And the radius is determined by chunks. So I can either go 1 chunk in this direction, or I can go 4 chunks, and they'll determine the radius of the circle. And when the circle is generated, it basically creates a ticking area around all overlapping chunks. So it's going to basically create a pixelated circle for your ticking area. And I can understand that in some cases this would be useful. However, I can't honestly think of any myself, but this is an option that you do in fact have. Now, you might be wondering, well, I have ticking areas in my world, but I no longer want a specific ticking area at a certain point in time. How do I get rid of them? Well, there are actually 2 different ways that you can get rid of them. You can use remove underscore all, which, if that wasn't obvious enough, that basically removes every single ticking area from your world. So it doesn't matter how many ticking areas you have, you can either have 1 or you can have several. This will remove every single one of them. Or you can use the remove function, just all by itself, remove. And you have 2 different options of which you can use to remove your ticking area. You can either do it by name, so as long as you know what the name of the ticking area is, you can remove it by name. Or position. So, say for example, you remember where your ticking area is, but you do not remember the name of it. So, I can basically stand like right here, for example, get this coordinate down, type in remove, type in this coordinate, and every single ticking area that includes this particular coordinate, every single one of them will be removed. So it's similar to the remove all, but limits to how many are actually there, because it's limited to only the ticking areas in that area. So that's how you remove it. Remove underscore all, and the remove using either name or position. Now there is one final section to the ticking area command, and that is the list function. There are 2 different ways you can do it. So first off, this is what the basic ticking area list function looks like. That is literally all you type in. So what this does is it lists every single ticking area that you have available in your world. You may also notice right here it says all dimensions. I haven't actually mentioned this yet, but you can actually set up ticking areas in more than just the overworld. If you want a ticking area in the nether, you can set that up. If you want a ticking area in the end, you can set that up. If you use all dimensions, then they'll list every single ticking area you have set up point blank. So if you have a few ticking areas in the overworld, a few ticking areas in the nether, you use all dimensions, it'll list all of them. Whereas if you use list, it will only show you the ticking areas within the dimension you're in. So say for example I have 3 ticking areas in the overworld and 2 ticking areas in the nether, and I'm currently in the nether. If I use /list, it'll only list the 2 ticking areas in the nether. So that's how it works. Now, there are some limitations to how you can actually use /TickingArea. So first off, the add function. You cannot have any more than 100 chunks. So you do have to be careful how big that your ticking areas are. You can only have a limit of 100 chunks per ticking area. If you're using the add circle, then your radius must be between 1 and 4 chunks. Anything below 1, which is basically nothing, or anything above 4 will end up failing to create a ticking area. So you have some limitations there. And also, you cannot have any more than 10 ticking areas per world. So once you reach ticking area 11, well, you're just basically going to be out of luck because you cannot add anymore. There is a little bit of a thing that you can do to change that. You can change the size of one of your ticking areas, but in order to do that, you actually have to first remove the ticking area, then re-add it with a larger area. So that is one option that you have, but you do have to follow the guidelines for add and add circles, so you do have to remember that. But again, no more than 10 ticking areas per world, and that includes all the other dimensions. So you can have 5 ticking areas in the overworld, you can have 4 ticking areas in the nether. You cannot add 2 more ticking areas into the end. You can add 1 more, but you cannot add 2 more. So that is a few things that you do need to keep in mind. Anyway, with that out of the way, I think that's actually a good place for me to go ahead and end off the video. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed. If you did, make sure that like button. Or more than make sure that subscribe button for future content. Also, you can follow me on Twitter at AgentCPU0 to stay updated. This has been Juice. Thank you guys for watching, and with that, I will see you guys later.